That was a good 2-year nap in the dirt. Well, that sounds like a plot device if I ever did hear it. Oh my god! I got my socks wet! Also, are they just hugging out that naval battle? Uh-huh. Okay. I understand now. I have no idea what I'm doing! Well, I guess the only option is to give up. The world I left is not the same world that I came back to. Could retire to Moon Garden, move into the Pornshire Inn, hang out with that guy who likes to roleplay Hulk Hogan and yell at people. Yeah, I could get used to that. Wait, that voice. It sounds so familiar. Could it be? Thrall!
Son.
Hey, you got your scoliosis fixed. That's amazing.
Welcome to Orgrimmar. Have you come to serve the Horde?
Yeah, sure. Are you okay? We're not in Orgrimmar right now.
I am the War Chief.
Yeah, cool. But isn't Vol'jin?
None will survive.
Okay. Let's go figure it out ourselves, huh? It's worse than I thought. A time travel expansion. If you're anything like me, you probably spent the past 2 years being very productive and living life, but with Warlords right around the corner, that's about to come to a fiery, screeching halt. A lot has changed in 2 years, especially recently, so if you came back like I did, it was something like this. No! My arbitrary numbers! They're gone! They took my talents. My boring, darling talents! Oh my god. Yeah. So you're probably wondering how I can show you how to prepare for Draenor in a non-redundant way in only a few days. Well, honestly, it's pretty easy. Most of it can be done in a few hours and with one raid lockout. The first thing you want to do, if you haven't already, and you may have because the game screams it at you every time you log in, is to go to Blasted Lands and start the new event quest chain. You'll rip through the enemies like wet tissue paper, and the quests are pretty quick and painless. You'll also net yourself some item level 515 and 520 gear, as well as a title and a pet. And while everyone has the title and pet now, in 10 years you can be one of those nerds who shows off their decade-old items. I mean, who would ever do that, right? Certainly not I. Certainly not I. Oh, and if you're a rogue, you can pickpocket this guy in particular for a whistle and some jewelry. The whistle summons this guy you might recognize from Shadowwrath, and you can fence aforementioned jewelry to him for some dingy iron coins. The coins currently don't have very many uses, but I heard if you get 1,000, you can trade them for 250 gold. If you decide to farm them, it's probably just worth holding on to them, because the only 3 NPCs that currently can be pickpocketed for this jewelry are the 3 named quest NPCs. Oh, and one more thing. Every level 90 mob in the new Blasted Lands has a very small chance to drop this bronze welt. If you really want to farm it, I'd recommend going to the north of the zone and going into the Netherguard mines. Anyways, next on the agenda, we're going to Timeless Isle, which is located southeast off the coast of the Jade Forest in Pandaria. Basically what we're doing, and what you're seeing in the background, is gathering chests. Timeless Isle is weird in the way that it only spawns chests for you, and they only spawn once, mostly. These chests have a high chance to give you an armor token, and if that armor token matches the type of armor that you wear, you can redeem it for a piece of item level 496 armor for the spec you currently are. You're not going to find them in every chest, and it won't always match, but don't worry, you're going to walk away with a lot of these. You want to grab all the chests, but absolutely make sure to grab the Smoldering and the Blazing chest. The Blazing chest has a 100% chance to give you an item called the Burden of Eternity that'll turn a single token into a 535 piece of armor. If you're unsure if you've grabbed all the chests, look at the achievement Treasure Everywhere under Pandaria Exploration, and it'll show you exactly how many you have left, if any. This map you're seeing is a godsend for finding all of them, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in the description. Okay, we're almost there. Next you're going to want to fly to Nutzao Temple and Townlong Steps. Once you get there, you're going to see a Pandaran girl named Ao Pai. She sells item level 522 gear, but sadly like most things in life, you're going to need reputation and you're going to need money. But don't you worry your sweet little head, I've had you cradled in my arms the entire time. The whole purpose of Timeless Isle was so that we could queue for LFR Throne of Thunder, so go ahead and do that. Whoa! Oh god, am I bleeding? Anyways, upon entering the raid, you'll probably see something like this. Someone once said that if you put enough monkeys in a room with typewriters, they'll eventually write Shakespeare. Well folks, that number is 25 in case you were wondering, and it cannot be a more direct comparison to LFR. Apply your face to your keyboard and roll, roll, roll for the next 30 minutes because it's the only thing that'll stop the screams. So the nightmare is finally over and you're friendly with the Shadowpan Assault. This allows you to buy that fancy gear we were looking at earlier, you know, if you weren't broke. But whether you're new, a boosted character, or just terrible with money, we'll get through this together. You actually have a few options here. Number one is buy it from China. But don't do that, because I hear that Chris Metzen will come to your house when you sleep, and then, well, no one's ever really returned to say. Option 2, and my personal recommendation, is to solo old raids. Pretend for a moment this is naked, vulnerable you. With 6.0, they changed the way that damage to and from monsters lower level than you works. If soloing old content wasn't easy enough before, it's certainly much easier now. It also makes things like soloing Dragon Soul and Firelands possible even without amazing gear. And if you do have decent gear, you can do the heroic versions with relative ease. Ideally, you want raids with a lot of trash and a lot of bosses in very close proximity to each other. This means places like the Temple of Ankh-Kiraj, Nox Ramus, and Firelands are perfect, and you can probably finish it with those three and then some. But really, any combination of raid works, especially if there's transmog gear or a combat pet you want to get from there, and not to mention, combat pets sell for a lot on the auction house. Method 3 can wind up making you more money, but it relies on the auction house and therefore takes longer, and profit depends on your trade skills and your server's economy. This one is pretty simple. You head over to Grim Batol and clear the entire thing in about 3 pulls. Rogues have a lot of tools to make this go faster, but any class can do it. Killing the first 2 bosses as soon as you get to them is a good idea because they tend to not want to participate if you drag them for too long. The money in this comes from the greens and the cloth. I disenchant the green armor to sell in the auction house and vendor the green weapons. I also vendor the blues. You're seeing a particularly sloppy run, but I still wind up making about 100 gold in 7 minutes before even selling anything. This is largely in part due to the new instance objective system that rewards you for finishing the dungeon and the fact that I got a lockbox inside of a lockbox. After you're done, just get naked and dunk yourself in the lava for a free teleport out of there so you can reset and repeat forever. Last but not least is a method that I read while editing this. The video is by YouTuber Tommy J, and it involves running around Pandaria gathering items on the ground that you can sell for around 2,000 gold in total. You can only do it once per character, and the time invested heavily depends on your mount speed, but it's more than likely worth it. You can check out this video right here, and it's also in the description. So now you're filthy rich and you have your 522 gear purchased. What now? You're probably wondering why you spent all this time getting gear if you're going to replace it with questing greens in Draenor anyways. Well, you're not wrong, but there are several time-sensitive things that you can only do prior to the release of the expansion. The first of which is the level 90 version of the new UBRS, or Newbers. I'm not a clever man. This can net you 3 pieces of 550 gear and can be run an unlimited amount of times a day. Once you have all that taken care of, you can do LFR Siege of Orgrimmar, or preferably sneak your way into a normal. In normal, heroic, and mythic, Garrosh will drop an heirloom weapon 100% of the time for your spec the first time you kill him in that mode. The heirloom goes to level 100, and they're no longer available once the expansion launches, so if you feel so inclined, it's worth doing. Alternatively, you can use the money-making methods mentioned earlier to buy your way into a carry, but be warned, unless you plan on using the heirloom on another character in the future, they're pretty expensive and might not be worth it. Besides that, well, like I mentioned earlier, old raids and their achievements should be really easy to solo now with your newfound gear, and you can grab most of the titles and mounts that you may have missed in the past. Just farming gold until your eyes bleed isn't a bad choice either, because garrisons are going to require a metric shitload of money. Well folks, sadly our time together is at an end. I hope I was able to entertain those who already knew all of this and inform those who didn't. Hope to see you all on the other side of the portal.